Mr. President.
Senator from Tennessee.
Mr. President, I rise to speak on the same topic my friend from Pennsylvania just spoke. I want to thank him for his laying out the rationale for this vote, for Senator Flake's effort. I know Senator Alexander, the senior senator from Tennessee, and my friend will speak on this topic in just a few moments. But I do hope we'll have an overwhelming vote for this motion to instruct. It's just a step in the direction that we'd like to go relative to Congress's role. Section 232 of the Trade Act was never intended to be used the way this administration is using it. Senator from Pennsylvania laid out the fact that this certainly is not being imposed for national security reasons. As a matter of fact, the White House has said loosely on many occasions that they're only using Section 232 in order to try to create some kind of leverage on NAFTA. And I don't understand how putting tariffs in place on our allies in Europe has anything to do with NAFTA. I don't understand how putting tariffs on our neighbors has anything to do with combating what China is doing and stealing our intellectual property. And I know the presiding officer knows full well what's happening there, and we do need to counter that kind of activity. I don't know if we're doing it in the best way now. But this is an abuse of presidential authority. It's an abuse of presidential authority. And what I hope is going to happen today is that in a bipartisan way, in an overwhelming vote, we're going to pass this motion to instruct, moving Congress into its rightful role as it relates to this issue. The reason the President, by the way, for those of you who may not be following this closely, is invoking Section 232 is that under 232, no one has really an ability to oppose it. I mean, with the China tariffs, and this has nothing to do with the China tariffs that are being imposed today and were recently imposed, they go under different sections of the Trade Act where you have to actually make a case for what you're doing. The President used Section 201 in January of the Trade Act, but he's got to make a case to be successful there. He's using Section 301 recently on China tariffs. Again, this has nothing to do with China tariffs, this particular motion. But he has to make a case for that. He has to deal with the World Trade Organization and ITC. Section 232, basically, he can just wake up and decide that he's going to use Section 232 the way it's now written. It's never been used in this manner by any president ever. But if you have a situation where we set up a rules-based society in dealing with trade, and any executive officer of a country can wake up and one day decide that they have a national security issue and have to make no case, then in effect, treaties relative to trade have no effect. You move into a place of not using rules to implement trade. Now, as a senator from Pennsylvania mentioned, our country has benefited greatly from trade. The state of Tennessee is one of the destinations for foreign direct investment in our country. It's a place where we export all around the world. And what the President is doing is shaking the very regime by not being able to even articulate where he's going. The senator from Georgia is my friend, and he's worked all around the world, and I'm surprised that he would oppose Congress having a role only when Section 232 is utilized. But the fact is that Congress should have a role. We gave this authority away in the 1960s and again in 1974. It was a mistake for us to have done that. We never expected the President of the United States to use 232 in the measure and the way that it's being utilized today. And this is a vote for Congress to assume its rightful role. It's a baby step. I hope to have legislation coming behind this where 15 senators, Republicans, Democrats, and an independent have come together on a piece of legislation to absolutely ensure that Congress has a role. This is just a motion to instruct to say that we agree that Congress should have a role when 232 is invoked. We will decide what that role is down the road. I urge all senators to support this measure, and I yield the floor.